Hi, my name is Cureton, Senior Journalist for XR Today, bringing you the latest and greatest from the XR, VR, and AR industry. And today we have on Logan Parr, Marketing Director for Pico Interactive, Kevin Sofen, Business Development Manager for Darley, and Kirk McKenzie, President of McKinzie Smart Technologies. Nice to have you guys on today.
Thank you for having me
here. Okay, thanks for joining us. So go ahead, tell us a little bit about yourselves and your company roles. I guess we'll start with you, Kevin.
Sure, right on. My name's Kevin Sofen, and I'm a business development manager for WS Darley & Company. Darley is a 115-year-old family-owned company based in Chicago, Illinois, and we've been servicing the fire industry, first responders, military, warfighters that entire time, and have traditionally worked on pumps, trucks, a range of fire equipment, and it was around 10 years ago where we got introduced to some really strong technology partners from around the world, Flame Systems from Australia, Reality and Virtual Reality out of the UK that were leading some virtual reality, and I've now been working with them closely to commercialize virtual reality training solutions for first responders and warfighters in the North American market.
Great. Well, thanks for coming on. And also, I guess, Logan, go ahead and introduce yourself as well.
Right. So I'm Logan Parr, the Director of the Western Marketing and PR for Pico Interactive. We work with businesses globally in a variety of different sectors, including healthcare, training, and education. And we offer a portfolio of both 3DOF and 6DOF headsets to suit whichever business endeavors our clients and partners are looking for. I'm very excited to be working with Kevin and Kirk in the realm of firefighting training. It's a very exciting field, and I look forward to talking more about it.
Lovely. And finally, we have Mr. McKenzie. Go ahead and give us a brief explanation of yourself as well.
Thank you very much. So I spent 30 years as an active duty firefighter until March of last year, and then opened my LLC to focus on next-gen technology, much in the mixed reality space. The final few years of my career, I focused on how we can update the way we educate the public, the way we train our firefighters on the way to an intelligent, smart community risk reduction model. And I've worked closely with Kevin and the partner teams that he mentioned, and looking forward to the dialogue.
Okay, great. Well, let's go ahead and begin. So we'll start a little bit about our first, topic up to date. So Mr. Kevin Sofen, we can start with you. So what can you tell us about your company's work with Darley? And also, can you tell us, I guess any of you can pitch in on this as well, how the three firms coalesced and how did they begin building these fire training solutions?
Yeah, and Kirk can speak to this very well from the firefighter perspective, but I think we realize that first responders have some of the hardest jobs in the world, and training is extremely important, and especially in today's day and age, preventable deaths are not acceptable anymore. And we've seen deaths in training. We've also seen some deaths that happen and injuries that happen that could have been prevented from better training. So as virtual reality started to become not just a cool thing for gaming, but something that could be really practical and useful for training, we started looking more closely at it to see how could we bring new virtual reality training solutions to first responders. We started doing this probably around 7-8 years ago, working with Flame Systems and Reality and Virtual Reality River. And we definitely hit some roadblocks and obstacles. The fire service has a little bit of somewhat of a reluctancy to adopt new technology fast. But the fire service has evolved over time. There is this phrase that people hate to hear, but there's some truth to it. Of the fire service is 100 years of tradition unimpeded by progress. It's sort of like saying Voldemort and Harry Potter. Some people I cringe when they hear it, but there is some truth to it. And the important part to consider with that is that with this virtual reality training, we're not replacing all the live fire and real training that happens. All this hands-on and passing on experience from elder firefighters to younger firefighters is still super important. But VR has now become part of the continuum of training. And that's what we've really had to really work to develop with River and Flame Systems about this is a piece of the puzzle. You can now train anytime, anywhere. It's cost effective. All the VR buzzwords and key phrases that we know. So we've now been, like I said, doing it for 8+ years, and have started to really get some solid adoption from different customers across the United States and around the world. And of course, I can go deep into the different nuances and applications and whatnot, but that's a little kind of high level overview. And I'd like to say that we are genuinely just getting started with market adoption in North America.
Right. Good to hear. And did any of you want to input anything into that, or did you want to add anything to that?
Just a quick comment on that. So, Kevin pointed out adoption has been a little bit rough. Some people are a bit more reluctant to adopt. I think one of the results of the pandemic of 2020 has been companies looking to find ways to deal with remote work, remote education, and training staff, in this environment. And it's forced a lot of companies to adapt to new technologies, probably more so than they would in the past. And we've seen with a lot of partners that attachment increase significantly in 2020 as they scramble for new solutions to keep that engagement, to keep the training flowing, especially when people are working remotely. And so I think we're going to see a trend of adoption of these technologies more and more as we kind of go into that new normal kind of post-pandemic situation. Now people have been exposed to how easy this is, the benefits that they see in virtual reality. It's a new business model that I think a lot of people will be investigating.
Right.
Absolutely. And I'd love to follow on with that a little. To Kevin's point, we as an industry, or myself specifically, I'm fond of the traditions of our industry, and I was both a leader and I was skeptical of immersive learning platforms until I got to try them, and then it was much like the industry as a whole, where every time the firefighter runs a call, which fires are 1.25 million fires in the U.S. each year, with more than 3,000 deaths a year consistently for 30 years. There's still a need to educate our public, train our firefighters on all different types of emergencies. And each and every call that our emergency responders go on, they have to innovate in the moment on the call. So while we appreciate our traditions, also innovative, and I'm grateful for the teams who've produced the content that allows for the pub ed and the training, which we'll talk about more, I'm sure, as we go forward.
Right. Well, thanks for sharing that. Want to go over to, I guess, a bit more of the technical side of the program. So I guess I can start with you again, Kirk. Can you tell us about some of the technologies used in the training modules? Like, what kind of tools do you use? Do you use haptics, firefighting tools, immersive spaces, and so on to conduct them?
So it's a full range of things, everything from simple 3DOF 360 video that could be used for public education to show them what a kitchen fire looks like, or wildland fire, why it's important to clear space around their homes. 360 video embedded with temperature content for firefighters. The NIST Fire Lab in Maryland, run by Dr. Matt Howler, has published a piece that's open source that people can view simply on their phone or in a higher resolution camera or a HUD, in order to see, to learn in new and different ways. Then I remember Dr. James Mullins at Flame Systems in Australia. I was disappointed and congratulatory in the same moment when I found out he had this heat vest that I'd gone to the Game Developers Conference in San Francisco a few years ago. That's where sort of I really got started in the work. And I had imagined, we could incorporate mixed physics, computational fluid dynamic fire models and make our firefighters hot in a simulated environment. And he had already developed this as part of Flame. So yes, there's thermal feedback. The nozzle has reaction force and a full 6DOF system with 40 different scenarios. So it runs from simple to complex. And in the last few days, been talking a lot about digital scent, about what is coming. How do we educate our public, especially our young members, about, gee, can we know the difference between the smell of a roasted marshmallow and the smell of plastics burning? And how might we train our firefighters with that? So what we have now is really awesome. Where we're going is going to be spectacular.
Oh, it sounds amazing. That's really interesting. I didn't realize they could get so much of the detail in those types of programs and like those training modules, because I know that, we'll go into it a bit later about some of the other types of modules that have been developed for training people in such dangerous positions or dangerous jobs. So yeah, I wanted to go, I guess, ask a little bit more. What do you think about this? Like, how do VR, AR, and MR training modules compare with traditional instructional methods?
Well, there's been a fair amount of scientific work and papers, published peer-reviewed papers in the medical setting and clinical setting, conflict resolution, how immersive learning platforms have a high degree of efficacy. We're still early in the fire industry, but the U.S. Fire Administration is looking at it. Some of the state fire training agencies. There's a local fire academy that I'm privy to is setting up a mixed reality lab. And so we're early, we're explorers. But my friend and colleague Justin Carissa, who's a firefighter at Cosumnes Fire, where I started the work, and they carry this on, is he's trained 2 academies, and in one set of questions he asked, compared to the live fire training that's traditional and the classroom lecture and the video series on the art of reading smoke and so on, like several days of fire behavior, and then also being inside an interlinked set of Pico headsets inside a fire that we had done. Actually, it's fire over my shoulder that we had done to help NASA train an AI program on, future techniques of that. The cadets said 4 out of 5, 80% said they learned more about fire behavior inside the simple 360 video than the traditional means. That it's a small cohort, but it's promising.
That's amazing. It's very amazing. Kevin or Logan, did you have anything that you wanted to add to that?
Just that we hear that across the board from a number of partners that we work with, that when they've gone from a traditional model to virtual reality, engagement is high, retention of people throughout the training program is high, the results are long-lasting, and so it's exciting to see that this technology and virtual reality can create that the immersive learning, and takes it away from reading a book or watching a video on a screen, but actually being immersed in that experience. Especially on the emotional connection level, being able to engage in a conflict situation and actually experience that gives somebody more of a sympathetic approach to a topic than they would just reading case scenarios in text. So it's, I think VR is a great way to engage people in that front.
Probably the one thing that I've seen that's been a great response from the industry has been the new content that's been created. Obviously, the hardware from a company like Pico has been top notch and continues to evolve and get better. The software from companies like River and Flame continues to improve, but the content that companies like River and Flame are making is really what's making the difference, and that it's contextual. And I think that contextual nature of being able to do 100 different scenes within the confines of a conference room, from going from a electrical car fire to a hazmat scene to a residential fire to an apartment fire. I mean, just being able to do all those things, it just allows you this ability from a trainer to a student perspective within, let's say, a 30-minute time frame that you weren't able to do before. Before, you're talking about the work and extent to create those environments in the real life. They're almost impossible now, from a cost standpoint, from a COVID standpoint, from an environmental standpoint. So the contextual nature of that content now has really, I think, started to open up the eyes of first responders, just because you can do so much. And if you can, obviously there's a difference between CGI and 360, but even from a 360 perspective, spend a bunch of money and create the scene once and then use it a million times. And I think that's really starting to make sense. And it's exciting to see how, as well, and Kirk can speak to this more, is that 360 cameras now are $300-400, and you don't need to have Spielberg, Hollywood style content to learn from it. Anyone can create a 360 video. You can, and that's what we're pushing for, is every single fire department should have a 360 video team. And really that's just a guy or girl with a 360 video camera going on the truck. And then you can do Monday morning quarterback, and you can say, hey, we did a run today, and let's look at where you were standing or where you parked the truck or how we approach a scene. And again, just more learning opportunities rapidly. And that's probably the other big thing in 360 video, is that you can do it, you can create, and then you can consume almost instantaneously. So that's been a really exciting evolution that I'm seeing from the market that is now starting to take shape throughout North America.
I want to do one more follow on there. I'll get back to the efficacies question that you had, but so important that we minimize our cancer exposures, and that we consider the environment and the cost of consumables and the staff hours it takes to run the typical training, where this could be done anywhere, both for the public and the first responder space. There's a couple great 360 videos to see. One at the NIST Fire Lab, and it's the Eye of the Fire project, is fairly easy to find. Like a credit to Dr. Howler on that. And then the New Zealand government published New Zealand Fire Escape 360. I think that's enough for people to search and find a publicly available piece. And the efficacy of that, if memory serves, is it was designed to tell people, look, you need a fire escape plan. You kids need to know 2 ways out. You need to have a plan of action, because you don't have 15, 12, 9, or 7. You might have less than 3 minutes. The fire over my shoulder, we were 1800 F at the floor in less than 2 minutes. So people with modern combustible furnitures, often full of plastics and foams, give up their heat release potential at a very rapid rate. So they don't have the time. So there's stuff that's available now. And to Kevin's point that, everyone should have every agency might have a kit. And one day we're going to end up, there's going to be 360 videos on the top of apparatus, live streaming into headsets. So chief officers can see in advance. My vision is, pun intended maybe, that we'll have computer vision, artificial intelligence that will be running in the cloud, and we'll have edge computing, and we'll have digital assistants in the field with something as simple as a 360 video camera to help understand what other assets we need, what's the progress of the fire, and the like. And then for post-incident analysis, how did we do today? What could we have improved on? So very interesting time. And then back to the efficacy. I recently demonstrated to a very veteran fire chief, 1,200 member department, and he's in the reality and virtual reality kit that's very detailed photogrammetry and laser scan data, a fire investigation kit. And he's moving forward in the classroom that we're in, and he's moving forward and he's moving forward. And I said, oh, watch out for the table. And he said, there's no table here. And I said, there is in reality. And he, big laugh, because it was so effective. He felt like he was there.
That's brilliant. I love that. And it's only going to go up from there, I think, as the technologies develop, they're going to be able to do so much more. And so thanks for sharing that. And I guess we can move on to the next question that I'd like to ask. I guess we'll direct this towards Logan. What makes Pico headsets the preferred choice for this training course? And can you explain why choosing the right headset is vital to building effective modules for dangerous and complex professions?
Well, I think the first thing is you don't just walk up to a store and buy a Pico headset. We have a sales team globally, and our first goal is to understand what the partners' needs are. So we really sit down with them get a better sense of what their goals and objectives are for their particular business model. And again, it could be education, it could be healthcare, it could be training in so many different ways. And then we discuss, which headset would be perfect for them and why we think that. For example, our G2 4K series, 4K resolution, is optimal for a lot of video content, where it's nice and pristine and clean and very crystal clear. And then from there, we don't have much in the way of restrictions for the headsets. It's not a complicated headset to try on. You can instantly boot up into a kiosk mode, so any company can easily create a simple interface so that you're just instantly into their brand, into their product, into their training tutorial. And then we work with them from our SDK and development side. So we have a team that works closely with these guys to either port content over, to help them in creating their content. We have a great selection of partners that we work with. So if somebody comes along and it's like, I want to use virtual reality in my business, I don't know how to get started, we can make those connections and get them up and running, from developing the apps, managing them remotely through mobile device management. So the headsets are in the field, and they can be managed from one location and all be updated at the same time. And then the other thing that we do is we really listen to our partners too. So we take that feedback and we look at that as part of our R&D and look at the future of virtual reality and what do we want to do. And we're hearing a lot of people who are looking for X. So we look at how can we integrate that into our next headset. So we're always listening, and we're always working with our partners closely to make sure that it is suiting their needs and what they're trying to do.
May I follow on with that real quickly? I was just speaking with Dr. Mullins in Australia yesterday or the day before about Pico and the use cases, and he said we've sold hundreds for our fire extinguisher kit. So they do a firefighter training kit and then a really effective CGI fire extinguisher training for the public and civilians. So in the fire service, we have operators, the boots on the ground, the emergency responders, and there's a huge team of very highly effective professionals in the office that enable our first responders. They need fire extinguisher training. A lot of places require it annually. Some insurance companies required it. Certainly, they promote the use of it. Well, it's quite a bit of work and now we avoid using petroleum as a fuel for training civilians. And now with the flame extinguisher, we have the opportunity to say, here's a number of different fires. We have a wood fire, trash can fire, a kitchen fire, all these different things. And here's 3 fire extinguishers to choose from in VR in the Pico headset that is high resolution. People feel a sense of urgency, and they get to try the dry chemical or CO2 extinguisher. And if it's a stovetop fire and they try the water extinguisher, they get the reaction that will help them learn that water on a grease fire causes some significant issues. So, and they've had really good success. And just today, I see the local college, the Fire Academy, that's going to be receiving the kit from the UK. I just saw, as Logan mentioned, too, the G2 4KS is coming out with interlinked headsets where people can be inside content that is curated and it's all connected from the reality and virtual reality team.
No, that's.
And just a quick little point on that. One quick point too, just from a Pico standpoint, we have kind of VR technology companies in between us and Pico, but we've had very specific customer needs, particularly from a security standpoint, working with the DoD and DHS, and just kind of an end-to-end encryption of headsets, and just if a headset were to get stolen, how can we ensure it's wiped and just password protection? And there was little features and nuances that existed, and we asked Pico, and they changed them right away, and our customers were happy, so I was happy, and then Pico was happy. So that's one thing that's been very nice to know, and I think a lot of our developers too have enjoyed some of the open source nature of the development of the Pico platform, where it's very dynamic, which then, of course, makes it easy to design exactly what our customers want. And from let's say for the extinguisher standpoint, connect to Wi-Fi and let it do an update, just like it's a Microsoft update on your computer. The updates have gone from being a huge pain and having USB drives and all that to just connect to Wi-Fi and let it do its thing and update. So the end user experience is now is becoming like you're using your iPhone or using your computer. So it's been very, very positive.
It's amazing how they can integrate all that technology into like one solution and, continuously improve and update and, make the training modules more precise. One thing that I can even go into, I guess we can ask all three of you this. Why is it important that these types of solutions can be deployed readily for emergency training? Like, say, for instance, what's happening in California every year that has actually, spurned on this type of solution. Why is it important for them to get the solution out as quickly as possible?
Yeah. Well, yeah, certainly it's been a challenging few years for the industry in California. I had 3 homes I built were lost in the Oakland Hill fire years ago, and worst of all, 25 deaths. But we've surpassed that very recently, 2 years running. The fires have grown in size and complexity. I think the last check a couple of days ago, we had 7,000 firefighters out on the line. It is going to be a standing issue in California and in many parts of the world. The fire risk, it has not gone down. U.S. Fire Administration notes, I think fire deaths in the U.S. are up 24% in the last reported decade. These are terrible stats. And so the long-term issues are persistent, need to keep working on those. And then why do we need it to be quickly deployable? In addition to continue to work on our old school set, we have stuff like a global pandemic, right? So much adaptation, talking to my friends that are still in the field. What a challenging year for everyone, for the members of our community and the responders all. And how might, if there's going to be a train the trainer event, how might we capture that event and be able to put it into immersive learning compartment that can be repeated regularly remotely? People may be in quarantine, but they could still be getting the training on emergency medicine they need to be able to go back to work in the field when they come back.
To add to Kirk's point, I think COVID highlighted a lot of this, where, especially with first responders, all these different things can happen in the world, but the ball keeps bouncing. People are still doing stupid things. I remember a firefighter once told me, if people are still out there, those garage doors in the fire department will keep going up. We're going to need to go respond. So first responders, rain or shine, pandemic or not, still need to do their job. And pandemic just made training a challenge, just because of social distancing in terms of especially travel. And so now it's just, we don't have a choice, but we need to do something like, let's say a River Link remote is a great tool that allows different departments and different institutions to be able to train, where you can have a trainer in Charlotte and I can have students in Denver and Consumers Fire Department, all on the same Wi-Fi channel, all in the same virtual classroom, all with the same instructor, watching the same content in the same classroom. And that is now possible today, which just, again, gives the tools for the 21st century firefighter that we need due to the obstacles and restraints, and just ongoing demands that are happening. And obviously you mentioned wildfires, but hurricane season is here now too. So that's another kind of constant threat that we have on the issue. And then I think probably the other big issue is just recruitment of new talent. All different industries are struggling to find new talent. So this now gives the ability to train firefighters better. I don't want to say faster, but you can even weed out certain people that firefighting isn't for everyone. So virtual reality even allows us to train certain people and find out faster if firefighting is for them or not. Because I know there is a lot of sometimes wasted funds on training certain people to end up not becoming a firefighter. So just one small other example.
Yeah, those are great points. I have a correction I need to make. for, I think I mentioned that there's 1.25 million fires each year in the U.S. And I transposed some numbers. I believe it's 240 million calls for service each year. And so we need it in addition to fire. We need it for EMS and law enforcement, for all these different aspects. And how might we use it? Some of your viewers or writers, listeners might want to check out the work of Dr. Skip Rizzo at University of Southern California, who did the early work in post-traumatic stress exposures or post-traumatic injury work in immersive environments, and how might we assist those who serve. And to Kevin's point, how might we do pre-exposure? I ran over my career about 10,000 calls. I saw some things that it might have been helpful to see in advance so I could prepare myself for what the experience was going to be like. And there's such good work being done by that. I need to give a shout out to our friend and colleague, Commander Paul Spade in the UK, who's done a lot to show don't text and drive, because this what could happen, and did a great immersive learning application that I think for especially the young drivers that'll be very impressive, but also for the EMT or firefighter just entering the career, to see what it's like to be a patient in the back of the car while the roof is cut off the car, and then the patient is put in a helicopter and flown off scene. It's a very powerful learning message.
Yeah, that's incredible. Well, we'll have to wrap things up, but I just wanted to know, did any of you have any closing remarks you wanted to add? Like, for example, Logan, Kevin, I guess Kirk, Kirk as well?
Yeah, just from a Pico Interactive perspective, I mean, partners like Kevin and Kirk here, they're the innovators in showcasing what's possible in virtual reality. I mean, we create the headset and we work with them to be able to give them the tools to be able to do what they need to do. But pushing those boundaries has been opening the doors for a lot more companies to look at virtual reality and the possibilities, especially again for training. I mean, it's a cost savings for a lot of companies. You have that initial investment, but maybe you don't need to build a giant lab or create a complete fire scenario for training. And then to what Kevin was saying earlier, you can do remote training and have people all across the U.S. or across the world in the same training classroom learning the same things. And that's the power of virtual reality. That is a message that I want to get across, because I always hear from a lot of people, I didn't know you could do that in virtual reality. And there's so many possibilities for business. And that's why we're passionate about, our approach to business, to be able to help these companies take virtual reality to that next level and improve their own business model.
Yeah, I guess the final comment from me, and I'm sure a lot of your listeners know this, but VR is not just a game. We're now seeing very practical training applications that can help prepare first responders to do their job better, to help save their own lives and help better save people in the community. If you are a first responder out there and maybe still a little reluctant, we are very open and happy and excited to provide different types of demonstrations. We can do virtual or in person. So we welcome the opportunity to show you the value of VR for first responders, or as Logan said, for really any industry. There's no industry that can't that is immune from the opportunities of how VR can assist with different training.
My closing thoughts are that we live in a 3D world. We are ingesting data sets in immersive learning for education and training, and it's here to stay. And it's going to be agnostic and ubiquitous, I think, across many professions. And while we're still explorers, I'd look for other people that want to come blaze the trail, because I believe it's here to stay, and looking forward to what comes next.
Brilliant here. Thanks so much. And thank you again. So we have Kevin Sofen and Logan, Pico Interactive, and Kirk McKenzie. Thank you so much for offering your insights. Once again, this is Cureton speaking about XR technologies in the industry. Thank you so much deeply. And please do keep us updated on your company's progress.
Thank you.
All right.
Absolutely.
So guys, if you enjoyed today's conversation, please like, share, and subscribe to our content so that you can always be kept in the loop. Feel free to also spread the word on conversations from XR Today with the hashtag XR News on Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook. So this is Cureton from XR Today. Thank you so much for joining us and have a good one. Cheers.